Hit it! Timothy!
Every Call of Duty Treyarch boss from worst to best, excluding boss fights, which we will include in a future Easter egg ranking video. What is a boss zombie? Really, anything?
I actually think that's more fair to rank the boss fights as parts of the Easter egg. That actually makes way more sense.
It deviates from the traditional zombie. But
That's
what makes
very
a good
fair.
boss zombie? Some important factors to consider are spawn rate, how often
Spawn
they're
rate.
showing up,
Yeah.
flow, how much they may or may not disturb it, innovation, how unique are they, fit, how well do they work with the map.
What's their bench? What's your weight?
And the story, reward relative to the difficulty, and the two burning
Well, these
questions.
are good
One,
criteria.
is it a healthy challenge or is it toxic? And number two,
Is it a healthy challenge or is it toxic? Okay, so we know where all of BO4 is going.
they were removed from the map? How big of an impact is there? Which would be indicative of how valuable they really are. And for some bonus content, some behind the scenes, don't forget to check out the tier list video on the second channel, Tim Talks, link in the description.
Timothy talks!
Shape this very
I'm talking to Timothy!
Number 40, Denizens. The little face...
I mean, this is fair. Good job, Timothy. Yep, denizens are completely useless. And chat, you know what's funny? Nah, I'm not going to tell you. I'll wait until you find out.
From transit. They're pretty much the worst by default because
They might be coming back.
They weren't actually supposed to exist to begin with. You see, transit was aspirational, but too much for its own good. The engine at the time struggled to...
This enemy should not have existed and only existed because of transit releasing on last-gen hardware. That is why denizens suck. So I fully agree. It deserves to be last.
Especially when moving at high speeds, causing frequent crashes. So, in an effort to prevent this, Treyarch injected otherwise unnecessary features like lava, fog, and of course, denizens to slow the player down. And nothing more. There is legitimately no upside. Its entire existence is predicated on fixing a pre-existing issue. Number 39, the Astronaut.
Dang, chat, Astronaut this low? I mean, okay. I guess I can see it because he doesn't give you a reward, especially the BO1 version. The BO3 version, you can take him out with Deadwire. He's not that bad.
There's no upside. There's no challenge. You're just trying to make sure that bro doesn't
I did
get
not
too
expect him to
close
put
and
it this low.
which is easier said than done when you're being constantly and uncontrollably thrown around by the anti-gravity.
I feel like the Moon Man is worse on co-op because I think his health also scales per player like George Romero does, and honestly, I can understand him putting it this low.
I can get you to an undisclosed location,
and you can lose a perk or quick revive.
One of your perks.
Yeah.
That. You waste a couple bullets, temporarily get rid of him, and then he inevitably returns like herpes. He's the gift that keeps on giving.
Honestly, he's probably worse than the Ascension Monkeys.
Removing him would only make the map better. Number 38, the Templar zombies
from
Origins.
What? Okay. I did not expect the Templars to show up. What the heck? I mean, okay, I agree. It's the worst part of Origins. That's fair.
Stand these guys.
I didn't
You're running
expect
around like a
this,
chicken
though.
with its head cut off, multitasking, doing Origins, when all of a sudden, out of the corner of your eye, you realize that one of the generators is being overrun. So you have to drop everything.
Again, a lot of these bosses are fixed with nukes. This is fixed with nukes. Ascension Monkeys are fixed with nukes, you know? So, but I agree. When you don't have a nuke and you're doing a speed run, your run literally is made or broken by where you get Templar generator zombies. And I mean, yeah, that's stupid.
You're doing and run all the way across the map. If you happen to kill them in time, great. You get a max ammo and life.
I think they would have been better if they gave you double the time to take them out, chat. One in the chat if you agree. They don't give you enough time to even run from one point to the map to get to the generator that's taken down. That's the biggest issue with the Origins Templars.
If moves on.
If they gave you twice as much time,
if you don't,
it would never
you get
be an
nothing.
issue.
And God forbid if you happen to be too occupied in the crazy place, fighting off a Panzer, whatever the case is, and can't get there in a timely manner, they will one by one systematically shut down every generator on the map until there is no more power at all. Then of course you have to tediously recharge every individual generator. Some people argue it's a healthy change of pace. I would argue the exact opposite. It ruins the flow of the game and is...
I agree. And also, there's no real lore significance.
It's a giant kick in the nuts. And while we'll never quite conquer these guys, we're doing lots of...
I love you, Timothy. Hashtag ad. Check out the ad. Hashtag ad Timothy. COD Fantasy. Catalysts!
Them only improves
Let's
the
get it.
game. They would not be missed. There's way too many of them. They're sporadic and unpredictable. You get no reward from them. They don't really fit with any particular map. They're not really challenging, are they? They're just annoying. Now,
To be honest, I'm glad he put Catalyst this low. They are literally the reason BO4 is so much of a chore to play. The Voyage Gauntlet with the Catalyst challenge might be one of the worst Gauntlet challenges ever.
with every boss going
They're horrible on Voyage. On most of the other maps, they're alright. But on Voyage specifically, they are terrible.
forward that has multiple
And that 9 Easter egg set
variants, which
Yeah.
of course the Catalysts do, I will rank them within their spot on the list. The worst by far is the water one. It runs around, avoids you like a little pussy, but contaminates all of the other zombies and makes them infinitely harder to kill. Right above that, the electric Catalyst, it
So
just blinds
true.
you. It's annoying.
Yeah,
right
it's
above that,
so
it plays the
annoying.
poison one, and the best of these D-bags would be the fire Catalyst.
You know what would have been insane? If they gave the player the abilities that the Catalyst zombies have. That's like BO4 is the game where it's like the zombies have better and cooler abilities than the player. How did you fail so hard in a PvE mode? It does not make any sense.
Because
You know?
its presence is brief. It explodes, gives you a quick little molten facial, and kills nearby zombies as well.
The fire one can literally one-shot down you. It does 150 damage up close. So if you do not have, or if you've taken one hit and you run into it, it's over.
And before you hit me up with
know?
the whole, oh, if you double pack a punch your gun and get a specific AAT that corresponds with a specific catalyst and explodes in it, I don't care, they're awful. Number 36,
Yeah, I
the
agree.
Novas from Alpha.
You should never have to run an AAT to take out an enemy faster. Ever. It's so dumb.
Omega. This map is already a clusterfuck, and so throwing these
Terrible
guys on
map.
top of it makes it that much worse. Right off the bat, they're unoriginal. We've seen Nova Crawlers
Yeah.
done several times before, but these two
Chat, this spot I always get worried about because I want to bring back a unique version of the jumping jacks in Die Rise. And I was thinking of taking the models from Alpha Omega or maybe changing up the colors. But the thing is like most people don't like the jumping jacks. The only time I feel like I've ever seen people like the jumping jacks is in Leviathan. But I don't know. It's difficult, especially remastering the map and figuring out what would be a better solution. You know, I think for sure remodeling them is a big thing we're gonna do somehow.
do come
you
in
know,
specific variants.
and we'll make them more colorful so they're not just bland and ugly. And
We have the Jolting Jacks on the upper part of the map.
'Cause,
which
okay,
teleport-
I kind of like the way the Jolting Jacks look. It's the base version, but with just like a bright color on them.
Around
you
and
know,
electrocute
but they suck in gameplay.
And then, even worse, in my opinion, in the lower parts, you have the Nova 6 bombers, which
Yeah.
sluggishly crawl around and contaminate surrounding zombies, turning them into meth heads looking for a good time. They become much
Quite
stronger,
literally.
much faster, and much more irritating. It wasn't a horrible
Yeah.
idea on paper, but there are
No, it's a horrible idea on paper. Why do you have another zombie buffing up other zombies?
way too many of them.
Horrible idea on paper.
You don't
Horrible.
gain anything from them, and they do strangle the flow of the map. At number 35, I have the Valkyrie drones from Garage Krovi, and I'm lumping in the electric zombies that they
No
birth out. Think about what
way.
you're doing when you're playing Garage Krovi. You're more than likely camping with the Mark III.
I have to agree, the Valkyries are the worst part of GK, though. Even though it sucks for me to see it this low, it's true. The Valkyries is what makes the strategies for GK that much more difficult.
Now think about what they're
So
doing
I
while
gotta
you're
agree.
camping. They're camping, shocking you in the ass. So you shift your
Yeah.
attention away to take them out, which is much harder than it should be. They're bullet sponges, and then by the time you turn around, you could be overrun. And if you do happen to be running around, they do follow.
Yeah.
They do linger. You find an escapable pocket, and then all of a sudden, boom, one of them sitting there taking up the entirety of the exit. They're way too big. And if they're not doing that,
They can literally body block an entire door, which is wild.
they're hanging out in the corner, shitting out
like,
a bunch of electric zombies. That
there's never been a boss zombie that's ever been like that, or a side zombie that is just so large that it takes up a whole door. Okay, like Margwa, I guess, and Panzer, but I'm talking like that's like an actual side boss. Like, this is a Valkyrie drone, dog. This is a max ammo round enemy.
at you,
you know?
and explode and
That's so
disorient
bizarre.
you anyways. So
Ozzy with a double.
artificially intelligent super drones really
Level
fit the World War II Stalingrad vibe. I think Garage
I agree. It doesn't fit the vibe at all. It's true. I feel like Valkyries would have had a better presence in Revelations than GK.
Krovi is better without them, although I do appreciate the free max ammo every few rounds, I suppose. Number 34, the Disciple from Cold.
Thank you, God. Chat. After playing MW3, I hate the Disciples. They are so annoying. They sap your health. They're health sponges. Awful enemy. Like, I love them in Mauer, but in Modern Warfare 3 Zombies and in Outbreak, they are horrible.
The Disciple is
They
as
suck.
if the
They're so unbalanced.
Valkyrie drone and the Nova 6 bomber and had a baby.
Literally.
It is a bulky flying target that shoots you from afar while contaminating nearby zombies.
And it doesn't even take away your armor. It strictly saps your health. It is so annoying.
Not really adding anything to the experience.
Garbage
In fact,
boss
I
enemy.
find them super irritating, but I do place them above the others so far because they're a little
rough.
more unique. Just a hair above that, at number 33, I have the Tempest, also from Cold War.
Just like a nothing.
Also floats around the periphery of your vision, in this case, electrocuting you and then teleporting around. Super irritating, doesn't add much.
I'm perfectly fine with this tier list so far, because everything right now just feels kind of like these are just nothing zombies.
Number 32,
you know?
the Keepers from BO3, which...
Again, it's just a zombie reskin. The Keepers act exactly like a regular zombie, pretty much, except they die faster.
Similarly aren't bringing anything to the table, but dissimilarly aren't a thorn in your side. Removing them from the game wouldn't have a positive or a negative impact. They just sort of exist and blend in with all of the other zombies. Number 31.
I really hope he does not include Zabala from Vanguard, because that boss is dumb. You have to triple headshot it to take it out. F tier.
One goes
Why is that? Why?
to the Blightfather, which I had a hard time placing on this list. It fits a totally different archetype than everything we've talked about thus far. It's one big tanky boy that's not quite as overwhelmingly awful, but I sort of just...
I have to say, I agree. I think the Blightfather out of the big side boss enemies in Zombies is the weakest, even though it had such a cool introduction in the 9 trailer.
View it as a giant catalyst, because like the
yeah, I
catalysts,
agree.
it feels entirely forced. It doesn't fit any particular one of those chaos maps, and it could so
Yeah, it's spammed in too many chaos maps. I agree.
easily just not exist. It could so easily be replaced with whatever tank boss is on that respective map. He's like your big drunk friend at a party. Spawns in, a little exciting, but then starts roping people into weird conversations, in this case with a disgusting tongue. Vomits everywhere, and you're like, alright, I guess I'm the one who's got to clean this up. And then somewhere by the end of the night, you...
Yeah, why did they give him another... Why did they give another boss enemy the Mob of the Dead effect of locking everything down? And the Blightfathers makes no sense. He vomits on stuff, and you have to clean... Like,
You ask yourself,
disgusting.
why do I gotta deal with this fool? Number 30,
I
the
agree.
Parasites from BO3. They
It's like
are
a nothing.
Valkyrie drones light. They cause a lot of the
They do like 0 damage, though, as long as you're moving.
same issues, but aren't ultimately nearly as problematic. They're not quite as big. They're not quite as intrusive, and I think they fit a little bit better. But
They fit
at the
way
end of the day,
better
I
on
think
SOE.
the quantity is still too high, and I think they're a little forgettable. At number 29, I
agree.
have the Furies from
Furies were cool on Rev, but I agree, nothing too much.
Revelations,
crazy.
which are like roided up Novas. And they teleport around, which is a little disruptive, but they are unique to Revelations. They're not quite as overwhelming, and they're still giving you that free max ammo round.
We're on Thrashers. I agree. Thrashers should be up next soon. That is one of the worst boss zombies in BO3 simply because you need the Skull of Non-Stopway to take it out. And that's the only thing that works.
Number 28, Insanity Elemental.
I feel like Thrasher definitely should have been before the SOE guys. But I get the way he's like putting it in. He's not necessarily thinking about like the high round damage of it, you know?
You've probably never even heard that term before, and that's because we're talking about the forgettable meatballs from Shadows of Evil. They fall from the sky, roll towards you, and explode. Yeah. And you're just kind of like, all right, whatever. They're annoying, but not as much as the Parasites or the Furies.
They're mainly annoying on the flag step, I feel like. That's about it.
Because they don't hang around too long. And let's not kid ourselves. They're just reskins of the wraps from multiplayer. Literally. Definitely not one of Treyarch's lazier ideas. Just above that at number 27, I have the Tormentors from Cold War. They are the meatballs, but with limbs. You're still getting that free max ammo round.
And they explode, yep.
There was at least 1% more thought put into these guys than the meatballs. Number 26, Spartois.
Yeah, the Spartwad, the skeleton is on Ancient Evil where you have to headshot. I think they're kind of whack. Like, it's so demoralizing when you shoot an enemy and he just materializes back up like nothing happened.
Spartoi,
I agree.
the skeletons from Ancient Evil. Not gonna lie, these guys can be frustrating if only the quantity weren't so high, and there's no tangible reward, but they are a great fit for the map, super unique, and I couldn't really imagine Ancient Evil without them.
I agree. They fit the map, but I don't know. The mechanic is a little eh.
Just above them at number 25, we have the Nosferatus from Dead of the Night.
I personally would have put these things lower. For high rounds, these things are so annoying, especially the Crimson ones.
Which fall into the same archetype, but instead of stabbing, they are lunging. They really do piss me off, especially the Crimson Nosferatus, which are a different variant that straight up grab you and have their way with you. The only reason I have them above the Spartoi is because you don't have to kill them exclusively with headshots. Number 24,
there are a lot of ways to take them out, which is true.
the Tigers from 9.
Tigers, making it up this high. Listen, I get the problem with Tigers, the one-shotting and all that, but it's still a cool-looking boss enemy. I'll never forget seeing it in the trailer and being super hyped.
They're alright. They're a lot like the Hounds, except more sporadic, and their lunge attack is damning. They can be lethal. They're hard to pinpoint, especially with everything else going on around you. There are way too many boss zombies on 9 in particular. Again, if you were to remove the Catalysts and the Blightfather, you still have the Tigers and the Destroyers and the Marauders. Everything gets watered down in that regard. The Tigers aren't the king of 9, but they're still very important, and unlike the previous two, give you an occasion.
They fit the map more than the Blightfather. I'll tell you that.
Number 23, the OG Nova Crawlers from
Hey,
BO1 and
raid,
BO4. When you shoot them, they do explode. It can be debilitating. It is annoying.
You're going to start seeing the OG stuff coming up.
The flip side is that very same explosion is killing other nearby zombies, which, if you think about it in the grand scheme of things, is saving you a ton of ammo. So they're equally beneficial as...
See, that's what made the original so good, is yes, when you take them out, it also takes out nearby zombies. Like, give us beneficial things like that, like with the Shang zombies, you know?
They are damaging. And there are lots of them, but they blend in with the normal zombie count. They don't feel like an additional thorn in the ass. As long as you keep your distance, stranger danger, they can be a net positive. Speaking of boss zombies that are equally beneficial as destructive, we have
literally exactly what I talked about. I get the way he put this tier list together. This is really good.
At number 22, the Napalm and Shrieker zombies from Shangri-La.
And they should be put together because they're basically almost like brother-sister.
Take your pick. One sprints at you, screams so loud you go into a blinding haze, and when you shoot it, so do all of the other nearby zombies. It sort of works as an EMP grenade. The other, a slow, methodical flamer that within proximity releases a deadly explosion that also kills other zombies. I personally...
Napalm is incredible on Shang. You use it for high round strats, even just for taking out zombies.
Prefer the Napalm zombie because despite being more deadly, the flame trap lasts longer and can kill more zombies for you. They're a fine duality, and while yes, they are occasionally annoying, they can be capitalized on. Just above them at number 21, we have the Monkeys from Shangri-La. They are a collective
I think it's interesting you put the Ascension Monkeys above the Shang Monkeys.
Package and supplement one another. They infamously steal drops and run away with them like a sad boy who lost his nuts at the zoo. The downside is they come after every single drop. It can be overwhelming, and depending on what your specific circumstances are, it may suck. They may steal something you don't want them to. But if you're not in a predicament, they can be manipulated and greatly taken advantage of. You can turn virtually any drop into any other drop you'd like. A cartridge into a max ammo, into a free perk. If they didn't show up nearly as often, maybe once a round, for example, they could be OP, but they're a bit much.
I agree, chat. Where's the Thrashers? It's getting too far in the list. Where is the Thrashers?
Number 20, the Mimic from Cold War. Right off the bat, you may be wondering, Tim, what kind of drugs are you taking?
I also would have put the Mimic a lot lower. After doing so many MW3 zombie gameplay sessions and all that, every zombie boss they put in MW3 zombies I do not like. The Mimics, the Manglers, the Disciples, the Mega Abominations. I do not like it.
Can I have some? The answer is no, and I think
I would have put these personally way lower, because I just think these bosses have been butchered.
I think that they are actually good for Firebase Z in particular, but...
I agree they fit Firebase Z, but not Outbreak and not MW3.
I do think there are too many of them. Spoiler alert, you'll find out soon as we continue on through this list. The traditional tank boss zombie is integral for a good map. The Mimic just so happens to be the worst of that archetype, landing it directly in the middle of this list. I don't appreciate the whole Mimic gimmick, alliteration unintended. You see an object on the ground in the distance that clearly doesn't belong there. You didn't put it there, and you didn't kill a zombie.
Like, mimics only work in a Warzone-based zombie system. That's why I don't like it, you know? It's so true.
There. You're supposed to just walk on by and act oblivious, and out pops a mimic. Oh, shit, I didn't see that coming. And if you're going to grab and violate me, right? At least wine and dine me first. The good news is they are easily extinguishable and fill an important role. Number 19, the Destroyer and the Marauder.
Wow. Okay, where is the Thrasher, dog?
From 9.
These are great boss zombies. These are probably two of my favorites on 9. The Destroyer and the Marauder, these are phenomenal boss zombies.
One, walking menacingly towards you, throwing axes. The other, not wasting any time, leaping directly at you, slicing your face open with some cool hand blades. I prefer the Destroyers.
Me too.
They're a little cooler and a little less obnoxious.
The Marauders or the Brawlers can do so much damage on you if you stay still. It's so
the problem with these guys, though, ultimately is the quantity. Like we talked about earlier, there are too many bosses in general on 9. So there's a lot of everything, but these guys are harder to take down. After a while, you just kind of throw your hands up.
They easily could have taken out the Blightfathers and the Catalysts, and this map would have been just so much better.
Yeah, like, Jesus Christ. I mean, do there got to be 50 of these things per round?
It's so
Otherwise,
true.
super
it's
cool,
so true.
Really important. Number 18, the Thrasher.
Okay, this is where I disagree. It's simply because of the Thrasher basically not being able to be taken out for high rounds. It is one of the worst boss zombies because of that. And so I'm fine with them putting it up here because I actually like the boss. It has so many unique aspects. It's just not balanced properly. And that's nobody's fault but Treyarch's.
From Zetsubonoshima.
It definitely deserves to go down low.
I want to like these guys.
You shouldn't.
They're very hard to. It's a fascinating concept. A zombie gets engulfed by a conglomerate of vines and mutated into this horrific swamp monster. Then you shoot each spore on its body until it explodes. But that's the problem. When it explodes, it emits more spores, which infect more zombies and create more Thrashers.
It's too little detriment for not enough reward. That is the biggest issue with Thrashers, right? Like, I personally, honestly think I dislike the Thrasher more than the Moon Astronaut, you know? Like, to me, the Thrasher is like bottom 5 boss zombies because of the skull.
And so it's this vicious, painful cycle, and by the end of the round, you might have a dozen of these things after you. Not to mention, there are already spores riddled throughout the map, creating even more on top of that, and they're bullet sponges at that. Not a great combo. It wouldn't be so bad if you gained, I don't know, anything from them. You don't. I used to think they would be better gone from Zetsubo. I don't believe that anymore. I think they're an important piece to the puzzle, but
they just needed some sort of reward. That was the biggest issue. You know, it gives you nothing. And it's a hard boss to take down. You have to put so much damage in it.
They are suffocating. Number 17, the Stoker from Voyage of Despair.
I'm shocked this is even that high. This is, to me, one of the least interesting boss zombies ever. And I've forgotten so much about it. I personally think it fits Voyage, but it's just kind of like lazy.
Another conceptually great boss. I love the idea of this guy once shoveling coal into a furnace and now looking like this. The dude is just rock solid. He is a real threatening presence, but at the same time doesn't spawn in too often and doesn't disrupt the flow of the game. Number 16.
I mean, yeah, I agree. In terms of the gameplay flow, he's not bad.
The Mangler from Garad Krovi, a very similar archetype to the Stoker.
So overdone. I loved Manglers and GK. I just think, again, with MW3 and Outbreak and all that, it's too much.
Stoker maybe spawns in a little more frequently, but more of the same.
Unlike too much Manglers,
the big old commie is integral to the map and provides a healthy challenge. He worked so well, in fact, that they added him into Cold War, where communism was needed. Speaking of which, at number 15, we have Forsaken's Abomination.
I can tell that Tim has not played MW3 Zombies because it's so funny because I played so much and while yes, I like the way these bosses were introduced on their respective maps, in MW3, I've literally just realized how much I do not like these bosses. I don't like the Abomination. I do not like the Mangler or the Mimic or the Disciples. So to me, they literally have been propelled that much farther back. Like, Abomination at 15 is kind of insane to me.
Which, if you really think about it, is a lot like an electric Margwa that crawls instead of walks. We're pivoting into a new archetype of boss, which I like to call Triple B. Big.
The head hitboxes are so doo-doo on Cold War. I agree. I agree. It's just... The Margwa is infinitely a better version of what the Abomination is. Period.
Beefy boy, which is a grand singular presence as opposed to the aforementioned tanks that spawn in multiples and perhaps too much. There's a huge rift in this list. The second half, especially towards the bottom, is primarily comprised of what I like to call little shits, which get under your skin or are more trouble than they're worth or are easily replaceable and forgettable. The first half of the list, however, we are making our way through as we speak.
Also, Abominations on the Outbreak are absolutely horrible. They added that boss, but then didn't add any of the wonder weapons from Forsaken into Outbreak, and the mode is impossible now.
And has a much more commanding presence, of which the Abomination is probably the least creative and the most irritating, as it's either shocking you from afar or it's full speed stampeding your way. It is a serious threat and a healthy one given that it doesn't spawn too often. Number 14, Transit Avogadro. It's not a crazy concept. It's an electric zombie, but damn, what a presence. And an interesting one.
I like his presence in Transit. It helps out a lot.
As well,
it definitely
given
helps
that
out a
if
lot.
you don't actually turn the power on, he won't spawn in. Of course, you're going to want to turn the power on to play the map as intended, but he won't show up too often, just every few rounds or so. When he does arrive, it is a shocking experience. Shoot me. And bullets are of no use. This is an atypical boss that forces
Unless
you
you're
to
playing
fight
Alpha
in a
Omega.
specific way, in this case with melee, Galvanuckles being the most effective. But not really, because if you happen to get a little bit lucky and pull EMPs out of the box, one of those will do the trick. Boom, gone. It's an excellent duality because if you're prepared, if you have Jug with Galvies and or EMPs, you're going to be fine. It's a breeze. If not, you are seriously in danger. I also love Avogadro's
it fits the
fit
map so
and
much
enigmatic
better.
nature.
It
Number
does.
13
Thank you,
goes
Warhammer.
to the Bee's Knees. Ancient Evils, Giga Knees.
I-
Which upon first glance,
I literally respect him for putting this so much higher because this is one of the best zombie bosses of all time. It is. It is so well designed, and people just don't see the vision.
could
It's
easily
a
be mistaken
great
as a Ben 10
boss
alien,
fight.
but is in fact a four-armed
Yes.
creature from Greek mythology.
does look like
he
Ben
is
10.
very difficult to take down, can spear you, can stun
Yeah.
you. Not
It's a
an
cool
easy
looking
task, but I
boss.
think it's ultimately a healthy challenge and
You know?
a damn good addition to a damn good map. At
I
number
agree.
12, we have the
Yeah.
Werewolf from Dead of the Night, which is to
Wow.
the Giga Knees what the Nosferatus are to the Spartoi. They are very similar. The main difference, though, being, of course, that the Werewolf is
How did you put this up so high? I'm shocked. Don't let Noah J watch this.
running and lunging at you. I'm not gonna
It's
lie.
it's
I've
a good
had actual
boss.
nightmares of these very werewolves. They
Yeah,
are
they're huge.
terrifying.
They
the
are
distant
huge.
howling is
Yeah.
bone chilling in and of itself, but then when they actually hop into the map and start running after you, you feel the vibrating. It is like being chased down by by a giant werewolf. I don't know where else I place it above the Giga Knees because I find it a smidge more impressive and fitting, and frankly, they're easier to take down with the silver bullets. Number 11 goes to,
The silver bullets are so nice.
perhaps surprisingly to some of you, the
What is this?
spiders from Zetsubo. Don't get me wrong, they are little shits. They can be disruptive, especially when they're webbing up and thus blocking
It's so true. Zetsubo is nothing without the spiders, though. So I think just because of that, the personality it gives.
off different areas of the
100%.
map. But here are the key differences that push the spiders so much further up the list than its peers. They're more unique, more fitting, and therefore more important to Zetsubo in particular. I can't actually imagine the spiders being removed. The spawn rate isn't too bad, and you're getting quite a good reward, not only every
They definitely fixed the spiders after launch, too. They were horrible on launch.
5 rounds or so with the max ammo, but with Mama Spida, which is
Mama
kind of
Spida.
a boss fight, but is in the map and detached from the main Easter egg, so I think it's fair game. It is required to take down to get the Wonder Weapon and Free Widow's Wine. Cracking the top 10, we have Old Reliable.
The classic.
Not Old
Yeah.
Yeller, but Hounds.
Yeah.
The first and most iconic boss zombies ever debut on World at
I still, to this day, think the best variation of the Hounds are still in World at War. And that's mind-blowing to think about.
War Shinonuma and reappear throughout several maps on several games in several variants.
Yeah.
Alpha Omega's Lightning Hounds are a copy and paste, just blue, and thus for me would rank just a hair below the traditional Hellhounds, and just below them, Cold War's Plague Hounds, which are a little different. They hop
Playgrounds aren't bad. I think they're probably the best variation of the dogs.
around and explode upon death. It just
They were
goes
cool
to
in
show
D
how
Machine.
effective and malleable hounds are within the mode. You can inject them into virtually any map ever, and nobody would bat an eye. Yes,
Literally.
the fit can be weird on some maps, but you can never go wrong with them. They will never be a negative. Number 9, the Ghosts from Buried.
I respect this pick. The Ghosts are one of the best boss zombies because they're contained to one area.
What's most
It is such an innovative thing. And the Ghosts are purely about if you have enough skill and know where they spawn to shoot them to not lose your weapons and your points. Well, your points.
fascinating about these is that other than perhaps Avogadro, they are the only boss that you have to go out of your way to interact with. If for whatever reason you didn't want to pack a punch, you could actually go the entire game without ever seeing them. But of course, you want to upgrade your guns. So you open up this ominous door and they show up in droves. You inch your way through the spooky mansion, taking them out one by one, while also watching your back to make sure they don't creep up on you because, of course, if they touch you, like most women, they're going to take your money. They create a lot of pressure and intensity while not necessarily being threatening. It's very difficult to actually get overwhelmed and killed by them. Once you pop out on the other side and finish the job, you get a free perk. Who doesn't love free drugs? They're super unique. Perfectly integrated, and I can't imagine Buried without them. And the best part is you can do it over and over again until you have every perk on the map. Number 8, Ascension's Space Monkeys. They are, once again, little shits, but unlike many of its peers...
I'm shocked he put this in 8. I'm gonna be honest. Like, so much farther ahead than Shang Monkeys. I personally hate these things. Even with nukes, they're so annoying.
Are crucial. Ascension is one of the easiest maps ever, and the Space Monkeys are the only provided challenge to bring any kind of balance. Every few rounds or so,
I think people don't play enough Ascension now, I feel, because of the monkeys. I personally would have rated this pick also, and the Thrashers much lower, because I feel like they detract more than they add.
Crash land, group up, and make their way towards your beloved perk machines. And if you're not there to tend to it, they're gonna hop up, stick their little dicks in the coin slot, and it till it's gone.
On BL1, they're horrible, to be honest. On BL3, they're at least manageable with gobbles.
And they'll do that to every perk you have until you take them out, in which case you'll get a max ammo. And if you happen to eliminate them before they even touch the perk machines, you get a free perk yourself. With a group of people, they are very manageable, and you'll find yourself rolling in perks. The fewer the players, however, especially on solo, the harder it is to manage. You'll keep one.
I wish they gave you more options to defend the other perks. You know, like if you could like shut down the perk and it like got like turrets on it or something.
And maybe
that would
2,
be really
maybe
cool.
3 perks at a time, which is unfortunate. It is irritating, but let's be honest, if it weren't for these guys, Ascension would be even easier, potentially the easiest map ever. You're not seeing them too often.
It pretty much already is.
They reward you handsomely, and they're one of the more unique challenges out there. Very similarly, at number 7, we have the Pentagon Thief from...
Yes! It is a shame this boss was not in Classified. That is Classified's biggest L, and I still think Classified is one of my favorite BO4 maps.
5, which...
So it's so
instead
true.
of a bunch of tiny primates running around stealing your drugs, is
one of the
drugged out
best
dude running around
zombies
stealing
ever.
your guns. I'm surprised by how many people dislike the Pentagon Thief. Sure,
Me
when
too.
he takes your gun, it can be very frustrating, especially if you...
But the rewards he gives you a bonfire sale. No other boss zombie does that. Only this guy. That is why he's so cool.
Oh, I don't know. Wanted to keep that gun. But the flip side is, if you kill him within a timely manner, you get that gun back, you get a max ammo, and you get a fire sale. And you get one of the rarest drops ever, the bonfire sale, if you kill him before he steals your gun to begin with. Plus, assuming you have multiple guns, which you should, you can allow him to take your weaker and kill him with your stronger. Not too oppressive, outstanding rewards, and again, one of the more unique challenges out there.
It's a phenomenal boss. It's so well thought out and done in 5. I love it.
He's the heart and soul of 5.
He really is.
The Space Monkeys are to Ascension. Number 6 goes to the Jumping Jacks.
No way, Timothy! I've never seen someone like these that much, and so listen, I want to keep this the same in Die Rise Remastered, bro.
From Die Rise, which may come to your surprise.
Sick.
I agree. They're uninspired. They're essentially coked out Novas. For one thing, they're the only different enemy type on Die Rise, and they're giving you a free max ammo every few rounds, and a free perk on top of that if you happen to kill them with 100% accuracy. In other words, not missing a bullet, which is easier said than done. They're not exactly exhilarating, but they're nothing but a positive. And really, the value of the...
Should I make them purple? But really, should I make them purple when the Sliquifier already shoots purple goo? you know?
These quote-unquote dog rounds, trademarked by the Hellhounds over a decade ago, can't be underestimated. They provide a different challenge, break the monotony, change up the pace, while simultaneously giving you a breather and replenishing your resources. And in the case of the previous half dozen bosses we've discussed, reward beyond that. Cracking the top 5, we have the infamous.
I agree. George Romero is top 5 bosses of all time. Not just because he's George Romero, but because this literally is what he is the soul of Call of the Dead. Literally.
Call of the Dead's
Like,
George A.
yes.
Romero.
Yes.
Not only the
Respect.
pimp daddy of the zombie genre as a
Respect.
whole, but if you really think about it, Call of Duty boss zombies. There wasn't a
Yes.
challenge like him beforehand, and
No.
there hasn't been since. It was
Yeah.
very difficult to rank him. If the astronaut is herpes, then George is mega herpes. He never truly dies. He is the gift that perpetually gives. I completely understand why he's a
What
turnoff
did
for
bro
a lot
say?
of players who really want someone following them the entire game. For one thing, he's forcing you to actively move around. If you're stationary, he'll catch up to you. And we all have that one dickhead friend that's constantly pissing him off and vibrating the screen, and then he's running
This would be me.
after you. It's annoying, I know. But A, if you can properly
this would be
handle
me.
him, he's not much of a pain, especially given you're not camping anyways. And B, though he is very difficult to take out, when you do, you are rewarded more than any boss ever. You're getting
Yes.
a free perk and a death machine.
I wish he also went away for 5 rounds instead of 2. I feel like 2 is not, or is too long. Or too little.
But if you completed
No.
the Easter egg, that death machine is actually a Wonder Waff, which is
Yeah.
a wildly important supplement to an otherwise dreadful collection of wonder weapons. It's
Yeah.
the only one with infinite damage, and yes, he's going to come back, but that just means more Wonder Waff, more
Wonder
perks.
Waff.
And if there ever were a heart and soul of a map, the
It's
mode as a
George, dog.
whole, he is
Yes.
him. Rest in peace.
what
These
I'm
top
saying.
4 bosses are what I consider to be the very
Are we gonna get Megaton in top 4? There's
best
no way.
archetype of boss.
Really?
They are perfection.
I'm guessing it's Brutus, Megaton, Panzer, Margwa. Is that really
They're
it?
unique. They fit well. They're a much needed,
No way.
healthy challenge. You
I'm
can't imagine them not
curious.
being there. They're not hanging around too much. They're not disruptive, and you're decently compensated for them. They check every single box of what makes a good boss zombie.
Here's the thing, chat. In terms of Brutus, do you like Blood of the Dead's Brutus or Mob of the Dead's Brutus? Because I always personally prefer mobs.
And at that number 4
Mobs
spot,
is
we
so
have
much better.
Brutus
Oh my gosh,
from
really.
Mob and Blood of the Dead. You will seldom find a boss zombie that is
I like the mob version way better.
incorporated so well into its respective map. He's the heart and soul, the pinnacle of the
Yeah.
story, and just so happens to be great for the gameplay. My tiny little nitpick is that when there are multiple of them, the screen shaking is
That's more so on mob. I feel like they fixed that in Blood.
obnoxious. But unless
Yeah,
you're
I
on the
agree.
bridge, you're not going to be
this is
experiencing
more
much
on
of
mob.
that.
Yeah.
More often than not, you'll pop in
His like smoke screen ability and all that, it's mad.
here and there,
Thanks,
create a little
Steve.
bit of chaos, give you a drop, and come back later. I understand that shutting things down can be frustrating, but if anything, that's the real threat, and he's relatively easy to kill. Number 3 goes to
I am shocked the Megaton's at 3. I am shocked. I think the Megaton, while yes, I do agree, it is the best recent COD Zombies boss we have had. Top 3 of all time? I don't know. I can see top 10. I don't know about top 3 though.
Cold War's
You
Megaton.
That's
Usually,
interesting
you know right
spot.
away if he's a good boss zombie or not. The second I loaded
Yeah.
up D-Machine and he spawned,
He has a commanding presence. And honestly, like D-Machine would be nothing without the Megaton. Literally, it's true.
I was
It's
like,
true.
damn.
Yeah.
He's tanky, imposing, very dangerous, but not so much to where he's overwhelming. He's actually quite manageable. You can directly confront him.
The split feature was really cool. Like, I have to say, you can't say this boss is bad. This boss is a very, very good boss.
Or you can create some space and attack later. And the duality is interesting as well. Once you deplete his health, he splits into 2, and you have a second battle on your hands. But not as difficult as the first one. It's a curveball that works, and once you take them out, you get loot, including but not limited to
It basically goes under the same premise of the Panzer and Margwa, where it's like, you don't take it out in a regular way, but you kind of do as well. I think the only issue is when you have multiple Megatons, because they just consistently split And then it gets a little bit too much, you know?
To the
I
key
get
card
that.
to get the Wonder Weapon. He is far and away the best of Cold War. Perfectly
I agree.
encapsulates
I agree with
those
that. He's the best
vibes.
boss in
Feels
Cold
like
War.
that classic
100%.
arcade monster.
Yeah.
Number 2 goes to the infamous Panzer Soldat.
Of course. Has to.
You know him.
Yeah.
You probably don't love him, you probably hate him, but he is so crucial for the maps he's on. He of course debuts on BO2 Origins with a retracting hook and a flamethrower. He reappears on several maps in BO3, but this...
Boys, BO2 Panzer or BO3 Panzer? Bro, this Panzer with the shots effed me up harder and way more than the Origins one, I think. I personally like the BO2 one. This guy absolutely ruins you in boss fights. Because he predicts where your trajectory goes, and he shoots it where you're literally just going to run into. You know, it's insanely busted.
Time with, instead of a retracting hook.
Yeah, they are no joke. And so, yeah, I think the Panzers easily is a top 3 boss.
A stun gun.
100%.
And then you're getting another reskin with Cold War's Krasny.
I think Krasny's suck, personally. Krasny's remove the urgency and agency of the Panzer. They jump in front of you, which is cool. But, like, they don't really have, like, a gimmick that's good. Okay, they shoot fire. Great. There's, like, 9 other boss zombies that do have something to do with fire, too. You know? Like,
Soldat, I would rank them in that exact order. At the end of the day, it's a zombie controlling a mech suit, not
They just don't have the same, like, presence, you know?
conceptually stunning, but is a crucial challenge on maps that would otherwise be extremely easy without him. Maps like Origins, Drak, Revelations all have extremely overpowered wonder weapons, and so you need something to bring it back down to earth. He's extremely threatening, keeps the player honest, and at the same time, isn't some impossibility. The urgency he places on the player at...
It's weird how that's kind of lost in translation between the Panzer and the Krasny. I don't feel urgency when I see the Krasny. And I think it's because it usually doesn't have a helmet, right? The Krasny Soldat. And so you can just laser its head and it doesn't become a challenge at all. You know, whereas the Panzer, it's like, you got to take that mask off.
The beginning of the game is unreal. You've got to get your ducks in a row and fast. Or your game could very well be ending early. The Panzer Soldat is the gold standard. Until, of course, BO3 launched with Shadows of Evil. Initially,
I think why I love watching Shadow speedruns is how efficiently speedrunners are able to take out all the Margwa heads. Like, that to me is got to be one of the most satisfying things in all of COD Zombies.
Players were weary of everything associated with this map, the Margwa being no exception. All of these alien...
When I think of the Margwa, I just think BO3. Margwa, to me, personifies all of Black Ops 3. I genuinely don't know how good Shadows of Evil would be without this boss. It's so true. It's such an integral aspect of the game.
And like tentacle monsters were a turnoff, but they grew on people. And while every other boss on this map is somewhat forgettable, the Margwa is unforgettable. It spawns in every few rounds and begins by walking towards
you. Can't play this map without encountering multiple Margwas, period.
Towards you. It gives you plenty of space to breathe and time to prepare your attack. You shoot off the first head and its speed increases. It's now running. Now you're running. The adrenaline picks up. You then pick off that second head. Now it's time to sprint. You take out the third head and boom, you get one of the pieces to the Wonder Weapon, 1,500 points, and a drop. There really isn't a better boss zombie than the Margwa. It couldn't have been done better. And I think it's especially impressive given it took such a big swing. And it even made an appearance on Revelations.
It was such a bold move for Blundell to do it.